Hello, good evening or good morning, wherever you're watching this in the world today. I'm Martin Cross. This is Crossy's Corner, and today we have an amazing guest. We've got the wonderful Zoe McBride, New Zealand lightweight world champion, recently retired. Hi, Zoe.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, great, thanks. And just to say that we're going to get into lots of issues today about elite racing, about the pressures of elite racing, about athletes' well-being, mental health, and Zoe's been talking about a lot of those things since she announced her retirement. So we're going to get into that today. But before we go, just a word that Crossy's Corner is supported by Ludum, the performance management and performance analysis tool for sports coaches and training groups. And you can start a free trial, 30-day free trial, by visiting ludum.com. So that's that out the way. So Zoe, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Yes, it's been a good day. It's been relatively busy, but yeah, it's been good.
So people might like to know how you're spending your time and what you're doing during the days. I know you've had a job. We were talking before.
Yeah. Yeah, that has been definitely a new one for me. I think I didn't realize how structured my life was, I guess, every single day with like training. Obviously, you have somewhere to be in the morning, you have somewhere to be in the afternoon, possibly during the day. And so your days are kind of just already filled up. So yeah, initially when I retired, I was like, wow, what do I do? Like, yes, I have so much time, but then I was also like, what do I do with all this time? So I've been slowly finding my routine, I guess. Like you said, I have had a job, which I have just resigned, which is actually very scary as well. I've just retired from rowing, and then all of a sudden I was resigning from my job, and it was a lot. But yeah, I've just gotten signed a contract for a new job. But then other than that, I'm also doing a bit of training. I'm doing a lot of cycling, and I'm building back running. I really want to do a half Ironman at the end of the year, and something I haven't really told anyone. But now I've told you and whoever's listening. So now it's like it's out there in the world. But yeah, it's been good. It's been really nice to have, I guess, more time for myself and friends and family as well. And then with training and things like that, or being able to kind of adjust how I'm feeling rather than just like pushing through. So yeah, really trying to get in touch with like what is good for me right now as well. It's a big work on.
So that physical thing with the half Ironman, there's still a need. I mean, I sort of stopped rowing many years ago, but I still feel the need to train like most days or to do some exercise like most days. And I know a lot of the guys and women in a similar position to me do likewise. So I guess that's with you kind of you're looking for that, still looking for an element of that physical challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, like I love training, and I love seeing how far I can push my body. So I guess I still want to challenge myself physically, and then I guess now is the opportunity to try some different things that I haven't, and not have expectations on myself. Although knowing me, I will probably have expectations on myself that like I want to do such and such time or achieve whatnot. But I think it is something that I know is really good for keeping me like mentally healthy and things like that as well. And so it's not something that I would want to take out of my daily structure. It's just at a lower non-intensive level, I guess.
Yeah. So in terms of you and your rowing and when things started to get really tough, I mean, you know, you've been a lightweight oarswoman for quite a few years.
Yes.
Was it always tough to be a lightweight for you, or was there a time where things were relatively straightforward in terms of coming down to weight?
Yeah, I have definitely thought about this a lot, because I guess now that I'm on the other side of it, I look back at some times when it maybe I thought I was really good and maybe wasn't as healthy, or some things were a little bit of like warning signs that I might have been struggling a little bit. But I think throughout unfortunately in New Zealand for a while we had lightweight rowing in high school, and that has been taken out now, but I don't think that's ever a healthy thing to have when you're a high school student and you have already so many pressures and things like that around you, and lightweight rowing is just another factor that's contributing, you know, to weight and body image. But I did lightweight rowing at high school, and then my first couple of years of under 23s, even elites, I'd never really had any struggles, I guess, that I picked up on. But I think the first sign definitely would have been when we did an energy availability study within like the Rower New Zealand female group. And I guess that was like a pretty black and white indicator on paper, like how much you fueling versus how much you need, and, you know, the energy intake. And yeah, that is kind of like figures that you can't really look past or you can't really justify to yourself. So that would have been 2018 that we did that. So that was probably like lines up pretty well with the first awareness that I had, and then possibly like when I started to struggle more as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. So do you think, so that time that you were rowing in the women's lightweight single scull and so on, does that mean that you weren't really taking in enough energy for what you actually needed to in terms of to manage your weight? I mean, how could you compete? How could you break the world record and do all those things if you weren't, you know, taking in enough energy?
Yeah. I think when I was in the single, like I was pretty good. I think I was fueling pretty well for how I knew how to fuel. And I think, you know, there is a slight difference in weight as well there. You know, you've got a couple of kgs extra that you can race in the single. And so I never had any problems there. I remember not really overthinking food and things like that much. Like it was just, you know, training, fueling, whatever. The pressure of it wasn't there. So I think that's why, you know, like my performances were good and I could back them up really well and things like that. And I think it, you know, going from the single back down to the double was probably when I had to start thinking about it more, because my body was like sitting at 59 or a little bit over, come down to race weight, but then 57 to 59 can be quite a big jump.
Yeah. So you mentioned that in 2018, that was the Plovdiv Championships where you came fifth, I think, in the double, or sixth in the final. Was there, what was the reasons behind that performance? Because it was quite surprised. You were going into it as world silver medalist, I think, from 2017.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, that was a big year, and one that I never really talked about. I guess that was, probably a year that I started to struggle more with getting down to weight. And then because we've been performing well, World Cups and things like that, and then we came back to New Zealand that year, for that winter. And then traveling over, I got off the plane and I was really sore in my ribs, and I just thought that I had slept on the plane funny or something like that. But it turns out I had a stress fracture, and that was, I think a combined effect of big training, getting down to weight, not fueling properly, you know, like all those little things, like when you put them all together. And so I was racing that regatta with a stress fracture in my ribs. And it was horrible, and it's something that I would never wish anyone to do. But yeah, I guess I don't know why. Like, I just never gave myself the option of not racing, to be honest. And it was really, really hard and really painful. But I just wanted to see what I could do.
Yeah. When you're feeling like that in a setup like the Kiwi team, like, who were you able to talk to, or what kind of support was available to you in terms of, you know, working out where you were, how challenging it was to manage your weight, or were you kind of alone and managing it inside your head?
No, definitely not. Like, we definitely had nutritionists and things like that were working with us. But I think for me, I I guess everyone kind of has their own method as well. And then I was, you know, like sometimes you sweat a little bit down to weight or you dehydrate. And then for me, I thought, I guess part of the dieting process was part of it, and it is to an extent. You know, like you talk with the nutritionist about like what you should cut out a little bit and what can help you get down to weight. And so I think I thought that I was, it was just part of it, and I guess I didn't pick up too much that it was really bad, because like until Plovdiv, there was no like side effects to show that I had been, there was no performance indicators that I wasn't performing well or that things weren't working. So I guess it slowly probably increased how I was eating and what I was eating and what I was doing to get to weight, but never in enough, like never in big enough steps that I was like, oh wow, this is not, this is probably not right. And yeah, I guess I just put it down to the fact that it was lightweight, you had to make weight. So I didn't consider that maybe it wasn't the best things to be doing. Yeah.
So how much of a blow was it finishing at the back of the field, or did you just rationalize that away to say, well, I wasn't fit, so you know that explains that result? What did that do to you psychologically as yourself and as a crew?
It was hard, you know. It's never easy to feel like you've been in a really good position and then, you know, drop back. But I mean, for 2009, for the season after that, it gave us so much motivation. And I think coming off that regatta, we were just proud. I was proud that I tried everything that I gave it everything that I could in the condition that I was. And I never wanted to blame my stress fracture or anything as well, because I was like, those girls out there are really fast. You've got to give it to them. They did really well and they deserved to beat us. And just, I guess that's the beauty of sport. You know, you've got to be on your game on the day, and I wasn't on my game then. And so it gave me a lot of motivation for the next season, which can be quite fun. It can be a good challenge, especially coming to New Zealand when we're so far away from everyone else, and you don't get a race for a really long time. It is good to have, that bit of a fire to come back again stronger.
So I mean, that was a fantastic year for you, 2019. Did the injury disappear? Did you manage to, were you managing yourself in a better way? How come that season was so effective for you?
Yeah, I think it was just a really good partnership. Like, we built our partnership really, really strongly, I guess 2018 and beyond. And we had like fun as well. I think we just took a little bit of expectation on ourselves. So in terms of like a performance and a racing aspect, like it was a really great place, and it was probably one of the best seasons we'd had, just because we enjoyed ourselves and we took on the challenges. And I guess we just wanted to see how far we could push the bar out, and then if anyone was going to come out with us. So it was really cool, and I think that's why it was really successful, because we took the weight of the performance out of it.
Yeah. So just talk about that season and the races you had, in particular that race at the World Championship, which you won by quite a distance. Like it was like 2 lengths, you know, certainly lots of clear water between you and the Dutch. I mean, what do you remember about that race, Zoe?
I think I just remember feeling really in sync and really excited, and I didn't feel nervous. I think I was just excited to see what we could do. And it was, I don't know, it was in the past, like I've thought about the conditions or I've thought about other people, and there was just none of that. It was just completely in our boat and with Jackie. And no matter how we won that race, and that was amazing, but I think no matter how that race went, I would have still felt so happy with it, because it was just a race where it just felt like us in the boat, and it felt like we finally managed to just block out the distractions, and we had a laugh on the start line. And
did you?
It just felt like a really cool race, like ones that I guess I had been trying to find for a really long time, ones where you could just go on with complete confidence, that not confidence that you were going to win, but confidence that you had just done everything in the lead up, like that we had unturned all the stones that we could find, and that we had just pushed ourselves and worked together, and that we'd done everything we could. And so whatever happens from then on was just like to enjoy it. So yeah, that was a really cool race.
So were you in that season, were you managing your weight limit more effectively? What was the vibe in that season for you that was working or
Yeah, I wasn't really managing it that well. I think that I did quite a good job of hiding that, because I guess I could focus on other things that were going well with the boat. So, but I was at a point where I was overtraining. Like, I don't know, we would have Sundays off overseas, and I would feel compelled to go for a really long walk or go for a run, because I had to keep my weight down, and it did really stress me out. And yeah, I had to increase like the amounts I was sweating to get to weight and dehydrating. And I mean, going into the regatta in Rotterdam, like we had a really great regatta there, but I felt mentally so broken before that race had even started, just because it took so much of me to get down to weight. And so, yeah, the fact that we performed there, I was a little bit blown away, because I didn't know if I would be able to have many performances in me after in that regatta. But yeah, I guess it's hard, because I look back on it and I wish I hadn't been able to put on such a brave face at times. Like, I wish I'd been able to let people in a little bit more, but I didn't know how to, because I guess I was like, you just have to do this because you've got everything right here, you know, like you're in the boat, you're in a really good position, you're going fast. And like, I didn't feel like I didn't want to let anyone down by me. Yeah, that was my perceived opinion, that, yeah, I just had to push through.
Just a couple of things there. Could you just describe maybe to people that are going to watch this or watching that what sweating down actually means in terms of what the process involves?
I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. It is, we had this like little tent that we would have set up, and it had a big tarp like wrapped around the sides to keep the heat in, and then the layering was rain jacket inside out, because obviously when you wear a rain jacket, it keeps the water, there was much moisture from going in, so that would be against your skin to stop any sweat and heat leaving. And then I would have 2 thermals, a hoodie, possibly another jacket on top. I would have a headband, a beanie, my hood up. I would have we used to get those like World Rowing buffs, and I would have like a buff around my face. Yeah. And then usually I'd have a pair of leggings, track pants, and like some warm socks. And then we'd go in this tent, and obviously we're in Europe, it's summer, so it's pretty hot. So even walking in, you're like, wow, this is something else. And then sit on a sweat bike for 20, 25 minutes. And it's pretty effective.
How much would you lose in that session?
I think the most I lost was 1.3 kgs in one of those sessions. Wow. That was really hot, and that didn't feel good on my body afterwards. Like, I struggle with my temperature regulation, or I would struggle with my temperature regulation when I was down at weight and pushing my body pretty hard to get to weight. And so I remember one time, like, afterwards I couldn't cool down and I couldn't stop sweating, because I think my temperature gauge, my temperature regulation was just so out, and I was just so hot and bothered that whole afternoon, and felt lightheaded. And then sometimes you'd have sweat down to weight and then weigh in, and then if I drank something that was too cold, like, my body would just be instantly frozen. It was it was grim.
So how much did your crewmate Jackie know about this, and what about your coach? Was it James that was coaching you? How much did they know, or how much were you able to talk openly at that stage?
Yeah, I mean, we all were open about with what we were sweating and things like that, so that was fine. I was open about that and how I was feeling around the sweating or the weight making, but I think I was I never got into the real problems that would cause me with, I guess, like the food and then my body as well. I guess, yeah. So in terms of like anything race weight or like race weight making, was very open, but then I think I was a little bit scared to go further than that. Yeah. Or I didn't know how to.
Yeah. So you came back from 2019, and I'm guessing that you're starting to train for the Tokyo Games.
Yeah.
And then there's this announcement that Tokyo's not going to happen. I know that there was an injury that you were having to deal with. What was the timing of all that, Zoe?
Yeah, so the injury was during our lockdown here in New Zealand, or the first one. And so we were training, hard up here. It was March when the Olympics were announced that they were going to be postponed, and then we all went home and things like that. But I guess back a little bit on that, like I'd been struggling like with my mental health. Like I just wasn't happy. I was really struggling. And also like weight making was part of that. And then that, so I just wasn't feeling like myself. And I think I was like, it's okay because you've got X amount of months to the Olympics. Like you can make it, like you'll be okay. You can do this. And, you know, you can see the timeline, you can see the end. So even though I was struggling, I could buy into the fact that this was my time frame. And so when it was announced that it was going to be postponed, I really, really struggled with that because all of a sudden my 5 months turned into 16 months. And that was really, really hard for me to comprehend because at that point I did know that I had enough awareness to know that I wasn't okay and that I was really struggling, and to think that I had to keep doing that and it was like put on myself that I had to keep doing it. That was what I told myself. But I really struggled with that, and then went home for lockdown, and we had the opportunity to do a bit of cross training sometimes and things like that. So I started running because I've always liked running, and I guess you don't always get much of a chance to run when you're an athlete. But I think it happened really, like the stress fracture in my femur happened very suddenly. But I also think that in hindsight, it was a long time coming. Like I was really working hard to get down to weight. And so I think if I hadn't have had a femur stress fracture, I probably would have had a rib stress fracture, you know, like I was definitely under eating, and we had a few different bone scans over the years, and my bone mass was, like my bone density was decreasing slightly. And so, I think I had the signs, but I just kept pushing through because I was like, I have this end date. And then, so.
When you said you were struggling with your well-being, with your mental health, in terms of the winter of 2019, spring of 2020, can you say how that manifested itself? So was that just in terms of more stress for yourself? Was it in terms of, you know, were you losing any sleep, or what sort of symptoms did you feel?
Yeah, I was very highly strung. Like I would get very nervous and anxious about a lot of things. I think if I didn't feel like I was in control of something, I would feel very, very unsettled and very anxious. And then I slept a lot. I was always like incredibly tired, which I think was a combination of my mental health and my under eating, lack of energy availability. And then, I was also just very, very emotional, and low. And I just lost touch of myself, and I didn't know how to be happy, I guess, to be honest. And
wow.
I really, really struggled because I didn't think that I had the right to feel like this, which is completely wrong because, you know, I'm an athlete, yes, but I'm also a person. Like, I'm a person, I have emotions, but I have always been really hard on myself, and I guess had really high expectations. And I was like, you have won at World Champs, you have qualified their boat for the Olympics. You're in a really good position to go to the Olympics. And I was like, you have everything that you have worked for the past 5-6 years. And I was like, how can you be so unhappy? And I guess it was really hard for me to kind of be aware and acknowledge and accept that, yeah, like it is a human thing. And so, yeah, at the start of 2020, I did get more help with that from my doctor and with some medication and things like that, which was really hard for me to, yeah, I guess, like, understand. Because
were you on antidepressants at that time?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah. Well, I've been there too. Actually, I'm still on them at the moment.
Yeah, I am still now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, how did you feel as an athlete doing that, going to your GP, and how was that for you?
I think it was really hard because I think we like to think of us when we're athletes like that we are kind of invincible, you know, like that we're strong. And as an athlete, like you try to be strong. You try to, you know, when you go out on the water and trainings, you push through, you put your head down and you get it done and you grind. And I think it's really easy to take that mindset into a lot of other aspects of our lives that, you know, you can outwork things. And so I guess I had never wanted to be seen as stepping down or stepping away from a challenge, but yeah, I realized that I did need help, that I wasn't able to figure it out by myself, and that you know, I could go to my doctor and he could just keep it between him and me if that's what I wanted. And you know, I did tell friends that were close to me, but it also felt like a big relief because I knew that it wasn't, you know, like there wasn't something wrong with me. It was like the hormonal and chemical imbalance in my body that was making me feel like this, but it wasn't me as a person. It was just, yeah.
Was this, I hadn't heard of this before, you know, thinking about talking to you, but about this syndrome called Red S.
Yeah.
Was that something that you had at that time, or maybe you can describe what it is and just how it impacts you?
Yeah, so it's the relative energy deficiency syndrome, and it's when you're not consuming enough calories, energy to fuel your body for the training that you're doing, and you can see side effects in your health, so like your bone health, and you know, like injuries are more common, and also in females especially, like the absence of your period. And so that was something that I had struggled with for a while as well, like I guess since 2018, like my first bone injury. But I think going back, that kind of takes a few years to, I mean, I guess the problem with under eating is I think it shows up differently in everyone, but I still performed pretty well, like day in, day out. But I think I was so used to working and surviving off the energy that I was giving myself, so that was my normal. Like I didn't have another gauge. And then in terms of an injury like point of view, it takes a little while for your bones to kind of deteriorate in their health and their density. So I didn't see bone injuries for a little while until I was already in this pattern of under eating. And with my cycle and things like that, I guess there's so much more information about it now, and how, you know, in order to be healthy and how to be healthy athletes, like we need to have our cycle. But in the past as well, sometimes it was said, you know, like you lose your cycle because you're training really hard, and that's kind of normal. Like there was kind of some information about it in the past that, and you know, people would say like, oh, it's okay, like you will get it back. Like when you stop training, you'll get it back. And I think maybe you'll get it back, but that doesn't mean like that now you should, you know, like you shouldn't be losing it in general. Like it's a direct warning sign that something isn't functioning properly or something's not right. So it was like a little bit of lack of information, I guess, and lack of knowledge of what I was doing now could affect me in the future.
So how how did it develop with the stress fracture of the femur? Is that something therefore that you weren't able to train, and that created another kind of barrier for you to surmount? What happened because of that?
Yeah, so the problem with that was over lockdown. So everything, all the consults we were having with doctors and physios was over, like video. And so they were doing the best that they could. But then I think I was in a place where I was afraid to stop training because I was afraid of me stopping training meant me possibly putting on weight because I wasn't because I was currently overtraining and that. And so I kept training a little bit because walking was really painful, but being on the bike wasn't so bad. And it was very foolish of me to do that. I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, like I shouldn't have been training. I should have got off my leg straight away and let it heal. But I was so consumed by this anxiety and the hold that my mental health had over me, that I didn't know what to do if I didn't have exercise, because that was something that I had control over. And I guess with the Olympics postponed and the climate that we're in with COVID and things like that, there was so much that you couldn't control, but exercise and food was one thing that I could control.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I got back up here, which was probably a month later, and I hadn't really healed that well. I was still in a lot of pain, and that's when I was taken off exercise completely. I wasn't allowed to do anything for probably 6 weeks. And it was that point that I guess I realized that I had to change what I was doing with my lifestyle. I had to change the way I was approaching it, because if I didn't, I was, one, not going to heal, and two, going to potentially just keep causing damage to myself. And it was really, really hard to come to that realization, I guess, because I knew that I had to change what I was doing. And so that was when I started working very, very regularly with my psychologist and doctor and things like that, more to get the way I approached it, and to heal that and heal my body, obviously, first and foremost. So eat food and not train, because when I was training and still eating the same amount, which wasn't enough, I was barely recovering from training, let alone recovering from my injury.
Yeah. So you felt quite supported at that point, I'm guessing.
Yeah, very much so. I did have a lot of support around me, and it was all about getting me back into being able to just the small steps. I had lots of different people with me, physios, psychologists, nutritionists, doctor, and things like that, that were just helping me to get back to being healthy rather than folks worrying about rowing. My doctor was really good, because right from the start he said, I'm here for you. I'm not here for you. I'm not here for the Olympics. I'm here for you. So we want to make sure that Zoe is good. And then once that, we will talk about, the next step and being in the boat and things like that. But that gave me a lot of confidence that I was going to be looked after, and that I could trust him to, look after me.
Yeah. And I guess you were being supported from those, like Jackie as well, in terms of James, that they were kind of very much on board with this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing was, I had to heal my leg if I was going to get back in the boat. And so they were definitely on board with, me taking my time and, just doing whatever I needed to do, and taking the breaks that I needed to, or modifying my training and slowly building it back to a point where I could get back. Yeah.
So what were your thoughts about the Olympics at this time, or did you push them to the back of your mind, or so what was your thought pattern at this time?
It's hard, because the Olympics were still there, but I guess the further I got into my recovery, which was healing my leg, and then through that I was also healing my relationship slowly with my body and food, and learning how to eat more, and how to just look after my body better. And so the Olympics was always there, but that was also the time when I guess I was realizing how much I'd been underfueling myself, and how much I had been used to a certain level of food and training, and that as I was getting better, I was like surpassing that by so much, and I was, increasing everything and feeling so much better, and I was feeling so much better,
Really?
like just my energy and things like that, like me fueling myself. I was like, wow, this is like, I'm not supposed to feel tired every day. Like, yes, I'm training a lot, but I shouldn't feel like I'm someone from The Walking Dead, like every single day, and like dragging myself out of bed. And like, I was just starting to feel like I was becoming more of like Zoe, like I was getting bits of Zoe back. And yeah, I guess the Olympics was always there, but then I was also starting to think, I was like, I can't put myself back in the position that I put myself in before to be at weight and that I had lived in for so long, because now that I'm on the other side of that, like I can't knowingly go back down that hole because it feels unethical to myself. And so, yeah, I guess my main priority was like, okay, I'm going to be healthy, and then I'm going to do everything I can to get to the Olympics, but I'm not going to do everything I can to get to the Olympics. I'm going to get to the Olympics if I can be healthy.
So you kind of felt this sense of freedom. It's very striking. You said you felt you had Zoe back again, and in the context of feeling much better. So did you then start to go back into training, and that didn't go particularly well? What was the sort of sequence of events that happened?
Yeah, like I got back into training. Honestly, like it took me a while because I think I was out of the boat for 7 months.
Wow. 7 months.
Yeah, it was a really long time. And I guess like that was combined with like the lockdown when we weren't able to roll, and then the rehab and everything. And then I guess coming back in, like I kind of jumped up a little bit too fast, and then I had to come back a little bit just because my body wasn't used to rowing for so long. But I actually, like, once I started to get back into it, I like really felt my groove coming back, and like I was starting to get really back in sync with the boat, back in sync with myself, like rowing and things like that. And I was actually feeling really good, like fitness wise, and moving the boat. So nothing was going wrong on the rowing side of it.
Right. So then what changed, or what happened for you to think that wasn't something that you wanted to do up to Tokyo?
Well, I guess we were just getting closer to, like meeting weights and making weights in the Olympics, when things like were lightweight focused, because the first half of the end of last year and things like that, like I was just focusing on rowing. I was just focusing on like coming back and trying to get faster. And so the lightweight, I wasn't thinking about the lightweight, to be honest, because I was like, I just need to focus on one battle at a time. And then past Christmas and things like that, like I did struggle at Christmas time because obviously it's time to get back with your family and things like that. But I've always thought this for so many years, that like I just couldn't fully be with my family and enjoy it because I was so consumed by like the weight making side of it and the restrictions that I placed around myself. And I think I noticed it a little bit more last year, because there had been a while that I just had been quite free in terms of that. And so then we had nationals and things like that. And then I guess we had to start like implementing weights, like checkpoints to get down to each foot weight making. And I could just feel old habits and old thought processes that I had really, really, had to work hard against last year. And it was really, really hard. Like it was so hard, and I could just feel them start to come back, and like I just started to become unhappy again.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that must have been really sort of difficult to have that sense.
Yeah, exactly. And just like the weight that standing on a mechanical object like the scale, you know,
Yeah.
like that weight that was on the scale could determine if I had a good day or a bad day.
Oh my
And
God.
I just felt like that start to come back, like that would determine how my day was and how I would feel about myself, whether it was good or bad, literally just based off a number. And yeah, I hadn't had that for a few months, or half a year. And then when that started to come back, like I could feel myself just slipping back over that edge, and then all of a sudden things would start to come in about different rules that I used to have, and how I thought of myself and how I talked to myself, like the critic side of myself. And it just I just didn't like it.
What was the critic side of yourself saying? I mean, because we all have those internal voices, those head tapes.
Yeah, we do.
You know.
Yeah, I guess a really big thing for me has been the value of a number. And I guess 57 is the lightweight number. And so for me, that there was so much value placed on that, because 57 kgs was the weight that I raced at. And so that was when I got on the start line. That was when we raced, and I loved racing. And then like a lot of times we were quite successful when we raced. So I think 57 had like, that was my worth. Like when I was at 57, I was like valuable and I was worthwhile, and people liked me because I did well. And that just became like my whole self-worth, I guess. Like I based my self-worth on a number. And so then when I didn't see when I saw a number that I didn't like, I was like, this isn't like, no one's gonna like you. This isn't the number where you are successful. This is not people don't, this is not where you're successful, basically.
So I guess it's really good that you had the awareness that this wasn't a place that you wanted to be. And it sounds like for a time you were struggling with this, between, you know, what you should do about it. I mean, when did you, how did you decide then to get to the point where you were going to stop training for the Olympics? How did that unfold?
Yeah, it was the same kind of thing, because like I knew how hard I had worked and how I guess much I had done to get through. Like, yes, I was still on antidepressants. Yes, things were still, like, I was still working on things, but I was in such a better place, and I knew how hard I had worked. And I was scared that if I went back down the road of, you know, disordered eating and trying to get back down to where I didn't know if I was going to come back out of that okay, and if I would be able to like pull myself out of that again. And I mean, like, I'm sure I would have, but like I didn't want to consciously go back down there knowing how unhealthy it was, being on the other side and seeing that, you know, like just reading through old things that I used to write, or like it was very clear that I thought that I needed to sacrifice so much of myself, because that's where I thought I was the most worthwhile and most valuable. And then it was literally just one random morning, and I woke up as normal, and I was actually feeling really good about myself. I was feeling really good about where I was at with training and my body and things like that. And I was like, I feel really healthy. Like, I feel like I'm eating really well. And then I weighed myself, and I just saw this number, and I felt like it was just shattering my world, because I was like, it was just like the thoughts of me getting to lightweight was just like, okay, you have to start dieting harder. Like, you have to do better. Like, you're obviously not trying hard enough. And thinking about the weight that I had to lose and when I could lose it. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And that was literally all it was. I was like, I don't want to do this to myself anymore. Like, I don't want to punish my body for something that it doesn't need to punish. I don't want to be unhappy doing something that in the right circumstances I would love to be doing, but it wasn't the right circumstances for me because I wasn't happy. And I wasn't willing to put my body through that anymore, or my mind for that matter, like especially my mind. Like, I feel like I'd been battling with myself for so long. Like, I just wanted a break, and I just wanted to be able to be kind to myself and be able to properly like heal that side without having any of that pressure coming back in.
That sounds like a very brave decision, the way you're describing it.
Yeah, it was really hard because it wasn't like I didn't want to go to the Olympics, because I did want to go to the Olympics, and I did. Yeah, I didn't. It's not like I stopped liking rowing or anything like that. It was literally just me having to weigh up, like, what is more important to me? Is my health and my well-being more important to me, or is rowing more important? And I guess I was like, I can't sacrifice myself for a sport that, yeah, even though I love it.
How was it telling Jackie and talking to James about this? How challenging was that, or maybe not?
Yeah, it was really, really hard, like, because I'd never wanted to let anyone else down, and I guess that was something that kept me going for a really long time as well, because I wanted, like, it wasn't just about me, it was about the whole team that I was in. And so definitely, like, there was a couple of months where I was like, okay, I just want to do this for my team as well. But yeah, getting to that point, those conversations were really hard, but I was finally just able to kind of tell them everything, and and just tell them how hard the past year and a bit had been on me. And because I had talked to them a little bit, but I guess I didn't know how to comprehend it myself, and so I didn't know how to tell it to other people. And it wasn't until I was working through the things with my therapist and things like that, and coming to terms with it myself, that then I was able to share that information, and I didn't feel like I was held down by it anymore. Like I felt like I was free from it all. And so, yeah, it was very hard and emotional and lots of tears, but they were also really supportive of me, which, was amazing.
Yeah. So it's felt like a kind of release for you, in as much as you have yourself back again, and you're thinking of making new plans. How much of that sense have you had since you made your announcement?
Yeah, it has felt a lot like that. It feels like I've been able to make a decision for myself for the first time in a really long time, like, for truly myself, not just for what I think I need to do, or what, for my goals, or something like that. Or it did feel really empowering. And there's obviously been a lot of ups and downs, like leaving, because it's a massive life change. It doesn't matter what conditions you leave under, like, it is a really big life change, but it does feel like I'm able to keep prioritizing, like, my mental health and my physical health, which I didn't for a really long time. So it is, very, empowering, like I said, to be able to do that.
I think one of the things that's been most inspiring, listening to you, because you've spoken a number of occasions, very, very openly, and you have today, Zoe, is to listen to you telling your story, and it feels like part of this process is for you to be open to to make others aware of situation of wellness, of mental health, and of self-image, and that is part of something that energizes you.
Yes, absolutely. It's something that I have, I guess, for a really long time been aware of, and I've wanted to be able to talk about it. But through this process and through the past year, like, I've come to a place where I just want to be able to share my story, and I feel so comfortable with sharing it as well, because, like, I want me 3 years ago to see someone talking about it and know that it's okay that I feel like this, and that it happens to a lot of people. Because I think, the problem with the hard thing about, mental health, and whether it's depression or anxiety or eating disorders or body image and whatever, like, they're all silent things, and that you can't see them. So, when you've got a femur stress fracture, or you've got a rib stress fracture, or you've got an injury, it's very visible, and you don't have to explain to someone. You don't have to, expose, or it's very visible to everyone. But in mental health, it can be really hard to open it up, and it can also be really hard. It can be really easy to pretend that you're okay, and people don't notice. So yeah, I think for me, it's like being able to say like, it's completely human to feel like that. And there's so many people that are going through it, and to be able to, encourage people to, share with someone.
And what reactions have you experienced from people around you, from from those that have heard you speak? What kinds of feedback have you had?
Yeah, it's all been really, really positive. It's been amazing. To be honest, I was so nervous about what people would say or think, because I was so, I was like, I don't know how people will take this, because it looks like looks like I had everything that I wanted, But yeah, the amount of support has been incredible from not only friends and family, but people messaging me and reaching out to me. Because I guess, like I said, it is something that affects so many people in different ways, and is also something that is so hard to talk about. And I think to see someone, to see another athlete, or to see someone that supposedly did have, everything that they had been working towards, to be able to come out and talk about those things as well, and to talk about their struggles and how it does affect everyone. I've had so much support for just being able to have a conversation, being able to share it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about before we went on air. We talked about, had you watched the rowing at the recent European Championships, and you said you had, and you were pleasantly surprised, maybe in how you felt watching it.
Yeah, it was. I really didn't know how I was going to take it, because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to feel like gutted or jealous or what, but I really enjoyed watching it, and I was really excited and happy to see everyone racing and watch the double. Like, I was just excited to watch it and see what was going on. Like, I just felt really at peace, and I felt like I just really wanted to support the people that were there, and just even like some of my friends who are lightweights now and they're still on the road to Tokyo and things like that. Like, I just love talking to them and talking about how their training's going and things like that. And so it makes me realize as well that like, and it was the right decision for me, and like in my heart I feel really good about it. And so I feel like my rowing time is done for now, and things like that. But that doesn't mean that I can't still be there supporting everyone, and then be able to do something in a different way.
What did you make of those? What did you make of those Italians beating the British?
That was a cool race. Yeah, very cool. It's very exciting. I mean, people haven't raced for so long. Like, it's almost a bit of an unknown year, which is always fun. Like, it's cool to kind of go off on the start line, and no one really has an advantage because no one's raced. And so it's really cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the season unfolds for all those crews.
One thing that struck me, was there any time you ever thought of racing at Openweight? And you're obviously really fast in single scull. You've done 7:24 as a lightweight. I think that's your world record, was it?
Yeah.
So was there ever any thoughts that you had about racing Openweight?
Yeah, I did think about it, but I think with my recovery and coming back into the boat, everything was a little bit further behind everyone else. And for the double, it was okay, because we had a really good plan that it didn't matter if it took a little bit of time. Like, there would be the time later on to get really up to speed and where we needed to be. But then in terms of the other crews and trials and things like that, I just wasn't in a position that I would be where I wanted to be to make a crew, or where I needed to be to make a crew, just because like we had been very specific on getting everything right, coming back into the boat and taking it slow and doing more cross training and things like that, that I just if I maybe had thought about it earlier, if I hadn't but that's all hindsight, obviously.
Yeah.
But I also think, for me, my mental health and I did need to step away as well. And I don't think it would have mattered what category I was racing in as such. I think even though it started from lightweight and all that, it was rowing that I needed to step away from as well to be myself outside of rowing as well.
Yeah. So how do you take care of yourself now? I mean, you're feeling much better. I know because, on Insta, you've been doing some reading and, you read some inspiring books and things.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's signs that you're taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself.
Yeah. I guess a big thing for me is, when I have the time to do the things that possibly I didn't do when I was rowing and not feeling good because I didn't have the energy for it. There were so many things that I knew made me feel good, but I just was in a place where I couldn't get myself up to do it, or I didn't want to go out and see people because that was where my head was at. So now it's going for walks with friends and catching up with friends, listening to podcasts on my walks, or reading a book when I can, and yoga and things like that. And it's just the looking after yourself, the slowing down, but then also I love learning and educating myself as well. So through podcasts and books and things like that, and just getting more perspective and more just knowledge I love as well. So I think it's still figuring out right now what is really good for me, but I also love running. And yes, I got injured from running, but I am building back slowly and I'm healthy now. So that's another thing for me that I want to be able to do, just get outside. I love just being in nature, and I think being an athlete and being rowing, we're always outside, so that's a big thing for me, which helps me.
And your parents must be really pleased now that you're happy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was so many times where I called them up and I was crying because I was really struggling with either my weight or my body image, or didn't know if I'd be able to do it. And the amount of phone calls I made to them in tears where they just tried to support me as best as they could, they were amazing. But they want me to be happy, and they're really happy that I've been able to be able to do that.
And how far ahead? I know you mentioned at the start when we were chatting, the possibility of doing a half Ironman, which sounds like whoa. How far ahead are you looking for what you'd like to do with your life, or is that something you're just letting unfold at the moment and taking your time?
Yeah, that has been something that I've been really working hard on, because I guess I've always had a big goal, whether it was World Champs or Olympics, or rowing was always there was goals, there was timelines, everything was kind of set up for me. So not having that big goal was really difficult at the start. I felt quite lost not having the goal. I was like, man, what am I doing today? But I think I've learned to embrace it a little bit more. And I know that whether it's a job or it is whatever it is, I find myself doing I'm going to have a routine. I'm going to have a big goal. And so right now I'm just trying to listen to what my body needs and just kind of go with the flow, like you say, just see what happens, see what arises, and not make any plans, because it is a time where I can kind of pick whatever I want, what path I want to go down right now. And so I want to be able to enjoy that and kind of slowing down. And I want to do an Ironman. There's one at the end of the year and one start of next year, or half Ironman. So I'm not sure which one yet, to be honest. I haven't decided, but I'm trying to, it's very hard because I like setting goals, but I'm trying to not set any big goals right now that are long term.
Yeah. That's an interesting intention. Have you had many messages from people in the international rowing community?
Yeah, I have. I've had it. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It's been really, really cool. People that I've idolized and thought they never knew me, and say that, I'm their idol as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a good
Yeah. That's fantastic. Ian Weir, who's watching, has got this question about Zwift cycling and weight in terms of Zwift, because obviously you have a weight formula in Zwift. Is that something you know about or have thought about?
Yeah, I guess that power to weight thing, like especially in cycling, is pretty huge. And so, yeah, I don't know what the support is like, because I guess when you're in the high performance system, you have so much support around you. And if you're not in the high performance system, or you're below the top level, like a lot of that you sometimes have to outsource yourself. And so I think that, whether people are cycling, lightweight, whatnot, as long as they have a way to be informed, and I guess like something that I would want to do is be able to inform people so that they kind of have the education and the awareness so that they can make good decisions for themselves and they have the knowledge to be able to make the decisions for themselves. Because I think that's something when I was in high school and in my very early days of, before I made the high performance teams and things like that, like I didn't have that, we didn't really get that education. So you don't understand sometimes the consequences and the implications.
Yeah. Josh, another Kiwi who's working over here in the UK, says, do you think we should have a medical passport like Norway?
In terms of like vaccines or?
No, I guess that's in terms of, being a holistic health sort of passport in terms of, being a lightweight athlete.
Yeah, to be honest, I guess it's quite hard to track sometimes because but I think it should be important, I guess, to have criteria that you're allowing people to compete if they're healthy, because it's going to encourage people to be healthy. Because I guess I found like it's very easy to slip through the cracks, like if you can put on a brave face, which I obviously don't encourage people to do, but you can, I guess, slip through the cracks if you're not monitored. And so I guess if there was a little bit more monitoring, you'd be able to keep on top of things a little bit more.
Yeah. What's happening now with the Kiwi team and Jackie, your crewmate? What's the future hold?
Yeah, she's rowing. I think she's going pretty well still. There was another lightweight around, so I'm not sure what they're doing with the double. I'm not sure like how that's going, but I think that they're just focusing on what they're gonna do, what they can do this year, and then for the future and stuff. Like Jackie's still committed to the next few years and things like that.
Yeah. And what about? Are you still in contact with the other guys in the team? How are things going for the women's team and the men's team generally?
Yeah. I mean, lots of my friends are still on the team, so I think everyone's been training really well. It's been I think there was a lot of jealousy when people were racing at Europeans. I guess everyone's like, oh, we want to be out there, like we want to get racing, because it has been a long season. So I guess some of the men are leaving to the last chance soon, which will be really cool to see how they go, get their bit of international racing kicked off. So and other than that, women are going well as well. So hopefully it'll be a really cool year to watch.
Yeah. We've been talking for over an hour now. I don't know where the time's gone. It's been an extraordinary, powerful interview, and inspiring to listen to what you've been saying, Zoe.
Thank you.
Just thinking ahead in terms of the Olympics and Tokyo. Have you thought about how you'll be during the Olympics, watching the games? Has that crossed your mind at all?
It has a little bit, but I have no idea what it's going to be like. So I guess I'm just going to have to wait and see. But if it's anything like the Europeans, like hopefully I'll just be able to watch and it'll be really exciting and fun. But I mean, whatever happens, I'm I want to support everyone that's going, my friends and the competitors and things like that. So yeah, I imagine that maybe it will bring up a few things, but yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's me remembering why I've made the decision that I've made, and how I'm feeling now and how it's made me feel. And yeah, so it will be something that I'll just take as it comes. But yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you. Zoe, we'll end the live part of this interview now. It's
Cool.
been a privilege. It's been a privilege talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, brilliant. See you, everybody.
Cool. Thank
Goodbye.
you. Bye.